Imagine the quiet before sunrise. The world is hushed, as if holding its breath. Shadows still stretch across the earth, yet there is a faint glimmer on the horizon, a promise of light not yet revealed. In that silence lies potential, the subtle shift between darkness and clarity. This is where discipline begins. Most people hear the word discipline and think of restriction, a chain, a denial, a burden. But discipline, in its purest form, is not about confinement. It is about direction. It is not a cage but a compass. Like that first ray of morning light, discipline illuminates the path, even when the world around you still lingers in shadow. From the earliest human traditions, discipline has been treated as a sacred force. The Stoics of ancient Rome saw it as a way to govern the chaos of emotion, to hold steady when fortune turned. In the East, Buddhist monks built their days around rituals of mindfulness, not as a punishment, but as a practice, a way of training the heart and mind to move in harmony. Indigenous tribes around the world understood discipline as respect. Respect for the land, for the hunt, for the rhythm of life itself. Discipline was never about harshness. It was always about alignment, aligning the individual with something greater than themselves. And yet in the modern age, we have forgotten. We confuse discipline with punishment as though it were only a whip to keep us in line. But punishment is external. True discipline is internal. It is not forced upon us. It is chosen. It is a belief system, a guiding principle that whispers, if you walk with intention, the road will rise to meet you. Picture a young traveler at the edge of a vast desert. The sands stretch endlessly, shimmering under a relentless sun. To wander aimlessly here is to perish, swallowed by the shifting dunes. But if the traveler carries a compass, sets a bearing, and follows it with steady steps, the desert is no longer chaos. It becomes a passage. That compass is discipline. Without it, the desert of life overwhelms us with distractions, temptations, and aimless wandering. With it, we endure, we move, and eventually we arrive. Discipline is, first and foremost, a belief system. It begins in the invisible architecture of the mind. Before it can govern actions, it must root itself as conviction. To live with discipline is to hold a philosophy that one's life is not ruled by chance nor by whim, but by principles deliberately chosen. These principles are not always easy, but they are clear. They are the stars we set our course by when the night grows long. Think of the sunrise again. It does not burst into the sky all at once. It rises slowly, inch by inch, casting away the shadows. In the same way, discipline unfolds gradually. A single choice at dawn, repeated tomorrow, and again the next day, until the pattern itself becomes the fabric of one's life. This is the philosophy of discipline, not sudden transformation, but slow, intentional illumination. Why does discipline matter? Because the essence of freedom is misunderstood. True freedom is not doing whatever one desires, whenever one desires it. That is not freedom, that is enslavement to impulse. The person who cannot control themselves is a puppet pulled by every passing urge. But the person who practices discipline is not enslaved. They are free because they have chosen the shape of their life, rather than letting chaos shape it for them. Consider the musician who sits before a piano. Without discipline, they may strike a few keys, play a broken melody, then wander away. But the disciplined musician returns every day, practicing, refining, enduring the silence between notes until beauty emerges. Eventually, they are not bound by scales or exercises. They are free to create music that moves hearts. Their freedom was born of discipline. Or think of the athlete who rises before dawn. Training is not glamorous. Muscles ache, lungs burn, sweat drips into the soil. But that athlete's discipline transforms the body into something capable of extraordinary feats. Discipline, paradoxically, is the root of excellence, the quiet foundation beneath every shining achievement we admire. But discipline is not only for musicians or athletes. It is the same principle that allows a parent to raise a child with patience, that enables a writer to finish a book, that gives strength to someone battling their inner storms. It is the same force that allows ordinary people to build extraordinary lives. There is a secret that those who live with discipline discover. It is not something harsh, something grim. It is not a joyless grind. In fact, it is deeply life-giving. Like the rising sun, discipline warms and nourishes the soul. It provides clarity where once there was confusion. It gives shape to days, purpose to effort, and meaning to struggle. Without it, life dissolves into a blur of distractions. With it, life sharpens into focus. Every great structure begins with a plan. A cathedral, rising with arches that pierce the heavens, does not appear by accident. Each stone is chosen, each beam measured, each line drawn long before the first brick is laid. Without design, there is only rubble. With intention, there is architecture. So too with our lives. Discipline requires expectation, the quiet but firm blueprint of what we demand of ourselves and of the world we wish to inhabit. To live without expectations is to wander through ruins. You stumble over broken stones, unsure where the path begins or ends. But to live with clear expectations is to walk through a hall built with vision, each pillar holding purpose, each wall standing in alignment. Expectations begin with the self. What do you expect of your days? Will you rise and treat each morning as sacred, or will you stumble aimlessly from one impulse to the next? The expectations we set for ourselves are not meant to crush us with perfection, but to lift us with direction. When you decide, I will honor my health, I will guard my time, I will pursue my goals with steady steps, you are not chaining yourself, you are freeing yourself from the chaos of uncertainty. But expectations do not stop at the self. They extend outward into the fabric of our relationships. To expect respect is not arrogance, it is clarity. To expect honesty, kindness, effort, these are the boundaries that protect the cathedral from collapse. Without them, the walls weaken. With them, life is reinforced. Think of a master builder. They do not measure a beam loosely, hoping it will fit. They do not shrug when a wall tilts. They correct, they hold firm, they insist that the structure meet the standard it deserves. Not out of cruelty, but out of devotion to the vision. Discipline asks us to be such builders of our own lives, precise, intentional, unwilling to accept what will not endure. Discipline is not built on fear. It is not sustained by shame. Its foundation is respect. Respect for oneself. First, respect for the body that carries us, for the mind that shapes our thoughts, for the heart that endures our storms. Too often, we mistake discipline for self-punishment. But true discipline is an act of reverence. I respect myself enough to live with intention, to protect what matters, to honor what I might become. Then respect for others. To live without discipline is to live carelessly, spilling chaos into the lives around us. But when we practice discipline, we acknowledge that others share this fragile world with us. We respect their time, their boundaries, their dignity. This respect is not weakness. It is strength refined. Imagine a river. When it flows within its banks, it nourishes the fields, it sustains villages, it brings life. But when it overflows, uncontrolled, it destroys. Respect is the riverbank of discipline, the line that gives direction to power. Without it, strength is wasted. With it, strength becomes life-giving. It seems like a paradox. How can boundaries bring freedom? Yet history, philosophy, and lived experience all tell us the same truth. It is within limits that we discover true liberation. Consider the monk's garden. High stone walls enclose it on every side. To the untrained eye, this may seem like a prison, but inside the garden flourishes, rich with flowers, herbs, and quiet pools. The walls do not restrict, they protect. Within them, beauty blooms. Our boundaries work the same way. When you set limits, with your time, your energy, your attention, you are not cagging yourself. You are cultivating. Without boundaries, distractions overrun the soil of your life, but with them, intention grows. The truth is simple. You cannot say yes to everything. Every yes carries 1,000 hidden no's. Discipline requires that we choose consciously, that we draw lines not to suffocate, but to safeguard what matters. Boundaries are an act of freedom because they allow us to direct our lives instead of scattering them. Every action sends a ripple. Every choice plants a seed. The disciplined life does not deny this, it accepts it fully. Consequences are not punishments imposed by a cruel universe. They are the natural mirror of choice. If you place your hand into fire, you are burned. If you plant a seed, it grows. If you neglect your health, your body falters. If you practice daily, mastery comes. The undisciplined life hides from consequences. It wants the reward without the price, the harvest without the sowing. But discipline is honest. It acknowledges that nothing is free, that every decision has weight. This honesty is liberating. When you understand consequences, you no longer see discipline as restriction. You see it as wisdom. You understand that short-term indulgence may cost long-term freedom, while short-term effort may build lasting strength. Discipline is the fire in which we shape ourselves. Think of a blacksmith. They place iron in the forge, heating it until it glows. Then, with hammer and patience, they shape it strike by strike, day by day. It is not glamorous. Sparks fly, heat burns, progress feels slow. But eventually, raw metal becomes a blade strong enough to endure generations. So it is with us. Self-mastery is the art of forging the self. It is learning to command impulses, to temper emotions, to focus the mind. Without the forge of discipline, we remain raw, unshaped, easily broken. But with it, we become something enduring. Emotional discipline, the patience to hold silence when anger rises, the strength to act with kindness when it costs us. Mental discipline, the clarity to focus in a world of endless noise. Physical discipline, the resilience to care for the body that carries us. Self-mastery is not perfection, it is progress. It is the refusal to remain crude metal. It is the daily decision to enter the forge, even when the fire is uncomfortable. Discipline is not for the moment. It is for the horizon. A farmer plants seeds in spring, not expecting fruit tomorrow, but knowing harvest will come in season. A mountain climber does not leap to the peak. They step, breath by breath, across months of effort. The disciplined life sees beyond the immediate. It understands that instant pleasure fades, but consistent effort compounds. Each day's discipline is a brick. Laid together, over years, they build the cathedral of achievement. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. It looks impossible, yet with each step, the peak draws nearer. The climb is discipline. The summit is destiny. Too often, discipline is mistaken for denial, a list of what you cannot do. But discipline is not about restriction. It is about creation. It asks, what do you want your life to be? Then it answers, act with intention every day. Intentional action transforms the ordinary. Drinking water becomes an act of health. Writing a single page becomes a step toward a book. Speaking a kind word becomes a seed of love. Discipline infuses meaning into the smallest choices. Without intention, life is a blur. With intention, life becomes art. Discipline is not a checklist. It is a philosophy. It is the belief that life is shaped not by chance, but by chosen principles. It is the conviction that respect, boundaries, consequences, mastery, and intention are not rules imposed from outside, but values chosen from within. A philosophy of discipline is flexible, personal, alive. It is not about living another person's routine. It is about building your own compass, one that aligns with your highest self, your deepest values, your truest goals. The sun has risen now. Shadows retreat. The horizon glows. A disciplined life is not rigid. It is radiant. It is not a prison but a pathway. It does not strip joy, it amplifies it. It does not suffocate, it liberates. The disciplined life honors expectation, respects self and others, sets boundaries, accepts consequences, forges mastery, pursues the horizon, acts intentionally, and lives by philosophy. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast plain. The path stretches before you, golden with morning light. You carry your compass. You carry your principles. You walk not as a prisoner, but as a master of your own becoming. Discipline is not the end, it is the dawn of a life lived with purpose, strength, and radiant freedom.